What is going on, dreamers? So we are going to check out Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan have an interesting conversation about exactly why Jordan Peterson's psychological license is under threat.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
So we decided to have this conversation because of what's going on with you in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
And that your clinical psychology license is in jeopardy because you have opinions about politics that they disagree with, which is a very dangerous and bizarre turn of events.
Well, it's your fault, actually. You know, I told you, I think, a week or so ago when we talked about this. Okay, so let me give you some background here. So
he's about to go into the full background, but essentially the board of psychology, the Ontario Psychological Board, or whatever their actual acronym is trying to terminate his psychological license if Jordan Peterson doesn't undergo training to re-educate himself on social media etiquette for some things that he said on Joe Rogan's podcast, and also for some of the tweets that he tweeted out about the current.
I want to know how it's my
Prime Minister.
I will. I'll tell you. A lot of things are your fault, as it turns out.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So the College of Psychologists has basically levied what are equivalent to about 13 lawsuits against me simultaneously. Now, the reason I call them lawsuits is because they're actions undertaken on behalf of a complainant. Now, the complainant can be anyone anywhere in the world who complains about me for any reason. They don't have to be former clients. They don't even have to be anybody I've ever met. They don't even have to have met anybody I've ever met. So, you know.
So it could be someone online.
Well, it is. All this is pretty much, all these complaints are someone online. None of them are my clients, although half of them claim to be falsely. And the college didn't throw out their complaints despite that. So, which is really quite interesting.
And what are the complaints?
Well, okay, let's see. The one complaint is about the tweet.
So right off the bat, there are already a number of things that I have an issue with that has been said so far. Not on Jordan Peterson's part, but just on the part of the situation in general. So how is it that the college acknowledged and has proved that most of these individuals aren't his clients, but are pretending to be, or at least claiming to be? They're still keeping their claims. And the college is also trying to do re-education training, which is some sort of training that would sort of force Jordan Peterson to tweet and talk how they want him to talk when they know the type of individual he is. Those are two things that right off the bat I just have sort of an issue with. But let's hear him continue.
I made about Eleanor Elliott Page, and when I said that a criminal physician cut off her breasts and that pride was the sin. So now I'm in trouble again because I just said the same thing. One was about Sports Illustrated cover where they featured that overweight model, and I tweeted out "not beautiful," and I guess that was something like fat shaming. I don't remember exactly what the charge was. And then I criticized Justin Trudeau and a former staff member of Justin Trudeau and Jacinda Ardern. I made a joke about her. I was going to New Zealand, and the New Zealand leftist press was freaking out, and I made this joke about bringing my alt-right trolls to New Zealand, and then I put in parentheses, or maybe they're just, ordinary people who are trying to clean up their rooms. So apparently that was casting the profession into disgrace. And then they submitted, one complainant from the U.S. submitted the entire transcript of our last discussion. So, I don't know how to defend myself against that, because apparently everything I say, and apparently everything you say too, is bringing the profession of psychology into disgrace. And I think they're most upset in that case about...
Now think about that. I want you guys to really, really think about that. Whoever's out there watching this. The entire transcript of a 2 to 3 hour podcast was submitted as problematic for the entire field of psychology. And that is the basis that they're using to try to terminate or attack this man's psychological degree and his license. That's unfathomable levels of just nonsense, in my opinion.
My comments about the inadequacy of climate models. And so, part of the reason I'm pursuing this action with regard to the Ontario College of Psychologists, well, there's two reasons, really. Three. One is, leave me the hell alone, guys. You've been on my case nonstop for 7 years, not once before that, in 20 years of practice. There's no complaints ever levied against me. It wasn't until I started to become, relatively well-known publicly that the college came after me. And 7 years of that gets to be a bit much, especially now that there's 13 lawsuits compiled up, and all of them are for political opinions, and half of them have been put forward on false grounds. But even that's not
Ridiculous.
enough for me to engage in the battle. The reason I'm engaging in the battle is, well, first of all, you want me to do social media retraining so I communicate better according to your experts? It's like, experts by what criteria exactly? What's a social media communication expert? You got any documentation that even exists as a field? And how do you know that if you have that social media expert train me, that I'm going to be a better therapist? There's no body of data that suggests that in the least. So I'm not going down that route.
We should explain that, because
so I've
that
already
is one
been
of the things.
sentenced, right?
Yes.
So this isn't a threat by the college. This is what the situation already is. I haven't been hauled in front of their disciplinary board yet, but they've already convicted me of disgracing the profession and sentenced me to an indefinite period of re-education. And that's the...
Now, analyze that for what it is in its entirety, okay? Think about it this way. They were able to play judge, jury, and executioner before Jordan Peterson was able to levy any kind of defense for himself. They not only said he's guilty because, he already said these things and they have proof that he said it, and here are all these accusations as well. But not only that, we also believe these accusations without allowing you to defend what you meant or clarify or try to provide some sort of feedback as to exactly what the situation fully was if those allegations are true. Not only that, but then we're also convicting you and telling you that indefinitely you have to attend these trainings until we decide that you have become better as a more, influential communicator for our psychological field. Or you can choose the other route, which is forfeiture of your license that you have worked 20 plus years to obtain. Now, if you don't see the level of absurdity that comes with that, then there is genuinely something wrong with you. I know people in real life that were wishing for Jordan Peterson's downfall. I work with some of them. Just interact with some of them in social spaces. And when you hear them talk, it's almost like hearing someone from a member of the KGB or a Nazi speak, but in more fluffed up blue hair terminology. It's actually wild. Yes, he should be banned off everything, and he shouldn't even be allowed to talk because some of the stuff he says is just, I don't like it. Do you hear how you sound? That is just wild to me. I don't even know how these people really think that they're real. The second most serious punishment that they can
levy against a professional. The first is to take away the license. The second is to undergo this retraining and to publicly announce the necessity for that, which they've already done in my case.
Right.
And so now I have to sit down with these experts at my expense for an indefinite period of time until I'm trained properly, whatever the hell that means, by the criteria of the so-called experts and the college. And that isn't pending an investigation. That's already in place.
It's such a wild request, too. Retraining, just even the way they phrase it, it's so bizarre, so Orwellian.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's your fault, because it's the whole transcript of our last conversation. I don't imagine they'll be that happy with this one. So, but the other reason I'm pursuing it, and to the degree that I'm able to keep my head clear during this process, because it definitely makes me angry, and really made me angry over Christmas when I was spending Christmas going through the minutia of all these bloody lawsuits, trying to figure out what the hell they were up to.
That's
instead
ridiculous.
of, taking a bit of a break and having some time with my family.
Right, this happened all around the holiday season, and it happened all at once. It was it went from Jordan Peterson being allowed back onto Twitter to immediately boom, 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 just stacking up. Here's all the allegations. Here's everything that the Ontario College of Psychologists thinks, and this is the punishment that we're going with. No amount of here's this trial that he gets to attend, nothing. Just everything was decided on his behalf.
So I was very upset about that, but to the degree that I'm upset about it, I'm not doing it right, because this can't be personal, can't be about me. Part of the reason that I want to pursue this, and part of the reason we're pursuing an objection to what they're doing on Charter of Rights grounds in Canada, is because they're interfering with my freedom of conscience and speech. And again, it isn't even the case that the reason that that's a problem is because it's about me. The reason it's a problem is because the colleges in general, like the regulatory boards of professionals, are doing this to everyone. Lawyers, physicians, teachers, massage therapists. There's all these licensed professions.
Right.
And if you're a licensed profession, the government establishes a board of your peers to regulate conduct of the professionals. Now, and in a functional time, all that happens then is that generally the people who get in trouble with their own clients, right? With the people they've been dealing with directly. And then the board steps in on the side of the person who's been injured by a pathologically practicing professional. And fair enough. But now it's been weaponized, and it's been weaponized as a political tool too. And it's not like activists don't know that. And it's so preposterous because I have 20 million people following me on social media, and God only knows how many views of my videos, for example, or the interviews you and I have done. It's tens of millions. And like, how many people complained? 20 out of millions? And then the college didn't have to pursue those complaints. They have to investigate them. So I don't know what they're doing now because, of course, they've been inundated by thousands of complaints about their own behavior. So I have no idea what they're going to do about that. But they didn't have to investigate.
Here's why, like, this entire system of trying to, like, politicize everything sort of falls apart, right? Because it's, what do you do once you make a decision like Jordan Peterson has to come and he is going to be subjugated to forceful attendance of these retrainings, right? What do you do once you have 17, 20, 50, 100,000 times more the amount of people that complained against him, complaining against you, saying that what you're doing is incorrect, is completely illegal, should be investigated, and all these things? How do you respond to that, to then say, oh no, what we're doing is right, you guys don't know what you're talking about, when, like Jordan said, these fields aren't even actually established? I mean, they're an expert on social media communication. What does that mean? You have the most subscribers, you have the most, like, to be an expert at social media communication, you would have some sort of credentials, but of course these people are just going to have some sort of nonsensical degrees with no actual evidence that they know what they're talking about. But because they're certified by some government or some board, they get to make decisions and they get to play lawyer and judge. Like, that's just not right, and that's just leading us down a path of, like,
they did that despite the fact that half the complainants claimed to be my clients.
Totalitarianism, sorry.
So what we have here is we have 13 people who complained about me hypothetically doing harm to someone they didn't know, to someone who they didn't know, anyone who knew, as a consequence of things I said on social media. And that all of them, not only were they fourth-hand claims of harm, which no psychologist would ever claim that a fourth-hand account of harm constituted a valid measurement. So the bloody college is violating its own measurement standards by even pursuing this. But so not only are they based on fourth-hand information and then an outright lie, which is they were clients of mine, they're also predicated on the assumption that it's okay to go after a professional for expressing political criticism. Because, like, literally half of them are, well, I said something about Trudeau. I said something about one of his top aides. I said something about Jacinda Ardern. I said something about an Ottawa city councillor in relationship to the trucker convoy. I said something about climate. Every single one of the complaints is political. And so why is that a problem? Well, see if you can figure it out for yourself. That'd be the first answer. And the second is, I have a friend in Canada, very well-known physician.
If you cannot figure that out, if you can't figure out why it's a problem that an entire board of certified and licensed individuals can attack you and take away and forfeit your license because of something you said that is politically provoked or politically themed, if you cannot decipher why that's a bad thing, then you are the type of person that leads societies into totalitarian dictatorships, because you don't see why it's a problem that one body of people is able to remove the freedom of thought and speech from another group of individuals or even an individual. You don't see why that's a problem. That is literally why the First Amendment was created. You should be allowed to say anything about anyone that you want without any sort of harm or punishment coming from it. Now, acting, there are laws that govern our behaviors. But when it comes to speaking and thinking, there is nothing that should be able to take that away from you. And if you cannot see why that's an issue, then I'm not going to say you deserve to be, enslaved or anything, but you are the type of person that leads to societies being enslaved. That's all I have to say on that matter, because that is utterly ridiculous.
International reputation, and a reasonably decent secondary income stream. And when this all hit, I reached out to him. He's a very brave guy. He's done a lot of writing that could easily get him in trouble. I said, look, maybe I could get you and Bruce Party, this lawyer at Queen's University, who's gone after essentially the college that functions for lawyers. I said, we should do 3 letters, same time, saying, that the colleges are chilling free speech in Canada with psychologists, with physicians, and with lawyers. And he said he didn't have his house in order enough to dare to take on the college. And the problem with that is that I don't know anybody in Canada who's a physician that's more well situated than him or braver. And even he was loath to do it. He'll do it eventually, but not now.
See, and when you have such influence as Jordan Peterson does, and you sort of isolate yourself in this sphere of popularity and this sphere of influence, there are not many people like you that you can gather to sort of attack an entire governing body or an entire organization, and it becomes difficult. You know what I think should happen? Jordan Peterson should utilize the connection that his daughter had, hit up my guy Andrew Tate when he's done with this whole trial and it comes out that he's not guilty. And once he's out, Jordan Peterson team up with him, team up with Joe, team up with a bunch of other right-wing, anti-establishment people, and create your own podcast, a group podcast, and take them down.